Welcome to a night of racing under the lights of the hugely impressive Texas Motor Speedway. The 2003 Indy 500 is in the record books, and now the Indy Racing League contenders are concentrating on championship honours. And at Texas, that can mean racing 3 abreast, averaging 220 miles an hour to the flag. Hang on for a wild ride in the race they call the Bombardier 500. Yes, the Indianapolis 500 is done and dusted, with Gil de Ferran leading home not only a Penske 1-2, but also heading a Brazilian domination of the podium. But it's early days in the Indy Racing League. This is just round 5 of the 16-race series. It's actually the 12th time the Texas track has hosted the IRL, and it always produces great finishes and occasionally a surprise winner. Last year, former motocross ace Jeff Ward won here, but he isn't back to defend his title as he lost his ride with Ganassi Racing and is on the sidelines. And talking of driver movements, quite a few prior to this race, as we find out in today's headlines. The Brazilian drivers Ayrton Dare and Vita Mira, following their good performances at the Indy 500, have both found permanent rides. Dare took over from Shiggy Hattori at AJ Foyt Racing, while Vita Mira has replaced Jacques Lazia, who's been lacklustre at Team Menard. But in a twist on Thursday, Dare crashed and broke his arm, and Lazia has replaced him, but will start at the back of the grid. Brian Herter will drive his first Indy Racing League event as he starts his stint at Andretti Green Racing, subbing for injured Scotsman Dario Franchitti. But the pole position has been snatched by Thomas Schechter, and in return he received the most unusual prize of a year's free lease of a Cessna SR22, which earlier today was landed on the main straight. He lines up on the front row just ahead of his Ganassi teammate Scott Dixon. So that's the news. We are, of course, live from the Texas Speedway for this 200-lap race on the 1.5-mile oval with its steep 24-degree curve, so 300 miles in total, and we're expecting a race duration of about 90 minutes, depending on the yellows. My guests are our regular IRL pundit, Paul Cherry, managing director, of course, of Force 10, who manufacture parts for several of the teams, and a newcomer to the Sky Studio, but an expert on the IRL Motorsport magazine, Tim Scott. Welcome, gentlemen, to the studio. And it's going to be not such a long night because at Texas, of course, it's fast and very furious. Now then, I guess Indianapolis, Paul, is still in our minds at the moment. After we came off air there a couple of weeks ago, what are the news stories? What have we missed so far between there and now?
We haven't really missed anything, but Indianapolis showed the deficiencies of Chevrolet's program in comparison to their Japanese rivals. And indeed, it's done so much damage for the teams that they banded together and said to Chevy, we've really got to do something because we're so far behind it's not even funny. It really is a second class. The Chevy runners at the moment at this track are between 9 and 8 miles an hour slower than any of the Japanese engines. An enormous gap when you're racing on these things. Chevrolet have taken the very bold step of approaching Cosworth Engineering, based here in Northampton, who had designed a 3.5-litre IRL engine over a year ago, which had shown some impressive form on the dyno. And what Chevy are going to do is basically badge engineer their way further up the grid. There is an engine being built. It's going to be tested next week by Sam Hornish, as I understand. Hopefully that will pull them into the game. It's a hard thing to do, but Chevy have just got to step back and say, OK, we've really got to do it.
Well, Sam Hornish, of course, the defending champion, struggling like mad. Indianapolis, well, got our attention for several reasons. From a British perspective, Dan Weldon's accident near the end of the Indy 500 was both a disappointment and a major talking point. In fact, let's take another look.
Okay, he just lost it. He did a little wiggle, and as he got out there and lost the front wheel, it got underneath the car a little bit, got the nose up, and once the nose was in the air caught it, it just turned him on over. He just did a wiggle right there. Right there, the right rear went down, the air got under the nose, and once the air got under that nose, it just lifted him up off the ground. He didn't come down real hard. Anytime you come down on that roll cage, and it is a testament to how well these cars are built. There it is again, as he does that wiggle. And you know, these things are virtually an upside-down wing. That's the way they're built. So once the air gets under that thing, it can lift you just as well as it can suck you down. And that's exactly what happened.
There's the aerial right there, upside down from the blimp.
What a testament to how well these cars are built and how well the fencing and the walls work here at Indianapolis.
All right, now you're riding with Sam Hornish. Now here's the block. Now watch this. He pushes him down almost to the grass.
He got so low. Now watch how low he enters the corner. He just entered the corner so low that he didn't have a chance getting off the corner.
And Sam was very lucky not to be closer to him right there.
Yeah, he was. Now we're going to take a look.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a conversation with Brian Barnhart after this little number.
Man, oh man. Well, these.
Now watch. We want to show you Mario Andretti's crash. I think we had that queued up. Back last month, he was testing the Canaan car. Now watch this. Now look how high he is in the air. 3-4 times, reverse flips, lands on the wheels. He got a cut on the chin. That was it. Now watch this.
He runs over that piece of debris on the racetrack. Once the nose of the car got up in the air, it just took off, just like an airplane. He got up, he caught the safety fence,
which like 20 feet in the air.
Which did its job exactly like it's supposed to. He did about 3 reverse flips, just like you said, Gary. And luckily for him, he came down on his wheels because he came down very, very hard.
That was, of course, Mario Andretti Sr., 63 years old, Tim, and luckily coming off okay with that one. Now let's talk about Dan Weldon. We saw the accident that Dan had in Indianapolis. I mean, we were expecting great things from him. That was a big shunt. How will that affect him for this week? I mean, 2 weeks on, how will that affect him in this meeting?
Oh, I'm sure he'll still be a little bit sore, but I don't think he'll be adversely affected once the race starts. It was a big accident, make no mistake. Not as big as Mario's, but it was big. But, you know, these guys, once they get racing, they're tuned in to just get on with the job in hand. And he has been racing these cars, or driving these cars, for 2 years now. He's new to the Andretti Green setup, but he's done a lot of testing miles. He's quite experienced, despite being new to the racing scene.
Still only a youngster as well. A lot we can expect from this man.
Definitely, definitely.
OK, Paul, Texas has been the venue for some of the closest racing. Toyota and Honda are now big in IRL. How's it all shaping up this year? Are we going to be in for a really close, fast race again?
Well, as you said, Indianapolis is now over, so the big push up to that race is done, and now it's the championship. And as we've seen this year, the chassis situation is split very, very evenly between G-Force and Dallara. So there's not really a combination with either engine that's better. So we're going to get a very, very strong race here. The only thing we can be sure of, I'm touching the wood here, is Chevy are not going to win this one.
But they might do if they get that thing working okay for Sam Hornish later.
There may be, but I think it will involve a 15-car eliminator.
Oh, dear me. You're not sitting on the fence this week, then? Taking a late-night excursion into the unknown. Now, Tim, I mentioned earlier on about 2 new Brazilians to the full-time to the series. Obviously, they're going to be looking to do as well as they can. Vita Mira and Ayrton Dare. But Ayrton Dare has excluded himself already in the biggest manner possible, hasn't he?
Well, yeah, big shunt in practice at turn 4. And he's broken his arm and his leg, and we've now found out he's broken his hand and his foot as well. Still undergoing surgery, but, you know, he's off the critical list. He'll just be out for 3 or 4 months. Taking his place there at Foyt is Jacques Vizier, who lost his drive to Vita Mira at Menards. Important for the series, I believe, that they keep their contingent of US drivers up. Having these great Brazilians, Canaan, Cachaneves leading the series is fine, but for domestic interest, I think they need to keep the number of American drivers in the series at quite a high quota.
Of course, that domestic interest is changing all round, with Toyota and Honda dominating at the minute at the front of it. You've talked about the Brazilians, but doing it for America, we hope, fresh from kart, and obviously a winner at kart. Brian Herter joins IRL for the first time. How's he going to go, do you think?
Well, Brian's an experienced racer. He has a lot of experience of ovals from kart. He was known as a road course specialist there, perhaps. But, you know, these cars, they get in and they go full throttle. And Andretti Green are, you know, a great team. And that car will be set up, and Brian will be able to drive and be competitive in that straight away.
And one thing you can be sure of is there'll be a huge crowd behind him. This Texas track is almost certain to claim some victims, though, tonight. And in the past, we've seen some spectacular accidents. Let's just look now at an incident involving Sarah Fisher and Davey Hamilton a couple of years ago.
Here is the crash.
Well, they're taking... Oh, contact was made between Schrader and Sarah Fisher back there. She just kind of ran over some stuff. But Schrader and Hamilton, when they got together, let's see what happens as they... Oh,
Schrader blew his engine. Yeah. Look at that.
Yeah. Everybody was a victim of circumstances right there. It wasn't anybody's fault. When that engine let go, Schrader couldn't do anything. Hamilton tried to go to the outside to miss him, but got caught up and into the fence.
Boy, he took a ride, Larry.
Yes, he did. And you can see that oil was just everywhere. Hamilton just barely clipped him, but boy, he backed into the fence very hard. Almost gets upside down. He hit that wall a ton, and Sarah Fisher just got into the debris.
Now, at regular speed, we're on board with Sarah Fisher.
Hey, there's a spin, slow down. Go low, slow right down.
Oh, wow.
You're good. Watch out for the pack behind and all the bits. You're out of sight. I assume you're okay.
Well, Sarah Fisher, if my memory serves me correctly there, Paul, wasn't quite the same for a few races after that. It really sapped her confidence, I think.
No, certainly an accident like that, because there's nothing you can do about it. When there's debris in the road, what can you do? It did set her back quite considerably at that moment, but she's a very strong competitor in her own mind. She's got the girl thing and everything, and 4 or 5 races later, if you recall, she had her first pole, so she really climbed back up there. And this year, unfortunately, we come back to our Chevy problem for her. So that's what's sapping her energies today.
Indeed, Tim. Now, at Indianapolis, they tried out a soft wall, although it looks still pretty hard to me. No such thing at Texas. It's the regular hard stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, this is perhaps the most fearsome track that this series visits in some respects. I mean, all the circuits are quick. And in sheer velocity, this is slightly slower than Indianapolis. But as Paul said earlier, the banking here is it's like going around a whirlpool. And, when Kart went here a couple of years ago, the guys were going so fast they were actually blacking out, and they had to cancel the race. I mean, this is the test of men, this circuit.
Paul, 223 mile-an-hour laps that have been passed in practice. Incredible speeds.
Yeah, and as we've said before this year, the rules were designed to bring the speeds down, and they've gone up. Engineers will always engineer their way faster. This track, as Tim has just pointed out, had the problem with Kart 2 years ago, and these speeds now are approaching those speeds, so let's hope nothing like that happens.
Indeed we do. Well, we're going racing pretty soon. The Target Chip Ganassi team are on the front row. That is, of course, Thomas Schechter in pole and Scott Dixon alongside him. We'll take a short break. We're going racing in just a few minutes. Welcome back. Well, before the break, you heard me talk about Ayrton Dare. In fact, you heard us talk about Ayrton Dare's big crash in practice on Thursday. Now we get a chance to take a look at that.
Steering has gone away. The brakes are gone. He is headed back into the wall. This is after the first impact, Larry. He has broken the right arm, and in this impact, breaks the right upper leg. He had surgery yesterday at Parkland Hospital and will miss about 2.5 months of the season.
And it was really the second impact that did all the damage because it was such a hard impact.
Well, they have said to us before that Texas can bite. I think you were saying it, the latest man to say it, Paul, and certainly that accident, a huge accident. Ayrton Dare, I suppose, almost lucky to get away with just the injuries he did.
The problem with this track is the speed. Mauricio Gugelmin had an accident coming out of turn 1, and by the time the car stopped, he was at the exit of turn 4. It doesn't just happen in a small space, it goes on.
Okay, let's move on to more positive things. We've done enough about the crash and bash things. We can expect, I dare say, 1 or 2 incidents tonight. Hopefully everyone will walk away safely from them. Let's talk about Thomas Schechter, shall we, Tim? I mean, a young fella that's on pole position this time, showing maturity.
Absolutely. I mean, Thomas came in with a blaze of glory into the IRL last year. Tremendously quick, but he kept crashing. And in the end, he split from the Chiva team because he was damaging so much equipment.
I'll have to stop you just there if I can, Tim, because I know we can cross now to the track live. Our American commentators are Gary Lee and former Indy racing driver Larry Rice. They're at trackside for the grid.
Dixon, car number 9.
Car number 12. Tony Canan, car number 11.
Philippe Jaffoni, car number 21.
Kenny Brack, car number 15.
Al Unser Jr., car number 31.
Gilles de Ferron, car number 6.
Brian Herta, car number 27.
Elio Castroneves, car number 3.
Roger Yasukawa, number 55.
Scott Sharp, car number 8.
Dan Weldon, car number 26.
AJ Foyt, car number 14.
Greg Ray, car number 13.
Sam Hornish Jr., car number 4.
Vitor Mira, car number 2.
Robbie Buell, car 24.
Buddy Lazier, car number 91.
Buddy Rice, car number 52.
Sarah Fisher, car number 23.
Jacques Lazier.
From if at all possible, but this is also the spot you want to finish in. Thomas Schechter will start from the pole position. And there's a look back from Tony Kanaan's car number 11. He'll be starting in the 11th position, presently leading the point standings by 14 over Castroneves. And there is the inside second row position of Tora Takagi. That is the Mo Nunn Racing. And there is Al Unser Jr. starting back in the 7th position. He lost this race last year by inches to Jeff Ward. And we could see the green flag, Larry, this time by.
Well, once again, blocking is an important thing, and Brian Barnhart has warned all of these drivers he will not tolerate blocking. Dan Weldon almost got himself black flagged. Unfortunately for him, he ended up crashing before that happened at Indianapolis.
They'll pick up the throttle off the corner. They'll go through those two left-hand dog legs with the start-finish line in the middle of those two dog legs. And here they come. The Ganassi teammates side by side into turn one. They still run side by side. Here comes Takagi back there in 3rd position. Kanaan, and look at that, still side by side. Just as we expected, just as we saw last year. And now it looked like Scott Dixon lost about 4 or 5 positions going down the backstretch.
Yeah, he got shuffled to the outside. The car didn't want to stick very well out there for what? Oh, look at Takagi. They almost made contact. He went way high, held on to it. I thought sure he was going to get in the marbles and end up in the fence.
It was a photo finish on who led that first lap, and Takagi on the high side. There's your leader, Thomas Schechter on the inside. Tony Kanaan rides back there in 3rd, and 4th position now is Giafoni.
And Takagi stays to the outside. He's not beside Schechter, but he stayed to the outside. Now he's going to drop down a little bit and fall in line.
So Schechter leads it from the pole position. Now they start to string out single file. Takagi rides in 2nd. Kanaan is 3rd. Giafoni is 4th. Dixon has dropped from 2nd to 5th. Then DeFerrin is 6th. Al Unser Jr. is now in 7th.
These cars are not running side by side like we've been accustomed to seeing them over the last few years. They have added some extra wickers on the sides of the rear wings of these cars to help slow them down. That might be one of the contributing factors.
Well, Giafoni goes to work on the high side of Tony Kanaan. That's the battle for 3rd. Now he settles down in behind him down the backstretch.
Drafting is a very important part of racing here at Texas. You have to have a partner if you're going to go to the outside.
We're being told now that there may be a spray coming off one of the race cars, and it may be the number 14 of A.J. Foyt IV, who just turned 19 years of age 2 weeks ago during the running of the 500. And there's a look at Al Jr. He pulls to the high side of Scott Dixon, and that is for position. That's for position number 5. Wow. He has it.
And Al Unser's made this, he's made this a very good racetrack for himself. He loves this place. Almost won here a couple of times, especially last year, lost a heartbreaker, but he went around Dixon, looked to be very easily.
Well, he started 7th. He's now up to 5th. Then you've got the Penske cars right together. And here comes the 15 of Kenny Breck.
He's on the outside of Castroneves as he used that draft down the back straightaway. Pulls up alongside of him. And after he got to the side of him, he just kind of got stuck there. Now then he goes on by.
Battle for 8th position. He goes on by to take 8th. So now the 15 car is settled in between the two Penske cars. Back in the 8th position.
And Kenny Breck looks to be very strong as now he looks like he's going to make another move. There goes Al Unser. He's all over
on the back of Giafoni. That's the battle for 4. So Al Unser right now has picked up a couple of positions on the Sarah Fisher was in very quickly. We understand that the spraying from the car was not the 14 of Foyt, it was the 23 of Sarah, so she came in under the black flag to be checked out and has been returned to the racetrack.
Couldn't have been anything too bad because they checked her out and sent her back on the racetrack. If she had been doing something really bad, they would have kept her in there. Now Scott Sharp goes to the outside and picks up a spot as he's racing back there for 8th and 9th.
Is that Castroneves on the inside, and all the way over to the left you saw Sarah coming out of the pit area. No, that's the battle with
Kenny Breck.
That's Kenny Breck.
He's on the outside of Kenny Breck as Scott Sharp. Looks like the Kelly Racing team running very good here tonight, even though they didn't start up near the front.
Well, Breck was up to 8th. He dropped back a couple of positions. Al Unser has picked up 2 spots, and he might be the guy to watch right now. He's back there in 5th, battling Giafoni for 4th position.
He looks to the high side once again. He didn't get that run down the back straightaway, though, but he moved to the outside, and you can see through the corner, he lost a little ground. So he's going to have to get back in that draft, get himself kind of sucked up behind him, and then try to make it going through the next corner.
Well, with the retirement of Michael Andretti, Al Unser Jr. is now the senior member of this organization.
I don't think he likes that very much, but that's still just the way it is.
Well, you can't lie about your age. Well, I suppose you could, but eventually it's going to come out.
Yes, it is.
Well, Scott Dixon back there in the 6th position after starting outside the front row. And little Al again looks to the outside of Giafone, running a bit higher line through turn 1.
Thought I heard
on the backstretch.
Thought I heard a misfire in Scott Dixon's car when we were riding on board there. It didn't sound all that good for some reason.
Well, once again, there is a look at the number 10 is Schechter, who has completed now 12 laps and leads Toru Takagi. 11 of 200 laps now complete still. This is that dogfight for 4th position. Some great onboard camera work. Boy, I could ride like this all night, Larry.
Yeah, he gets that little bit of a draft down the straightaway, but he doesn't get enough of a draft to pull himself by going through the corner. You can see he uses that draft and he sucks to the outside, but he's just not up far enough, and he actually loses a little bit of ground through the corner. Obviously, it's a longer way around on the outside.
Now he takes a look to the inside. He may have a shot here going into 3.
Giafone gave him room. Giafone saw him in the mirror and gave him the bottom, but he couldn't take advantage of it.
And of course, you see 3, 2, and 1 right up there in front. So you're riding back in 5th position on lap 15.
Yeah, and he's tried a little bit of everything. He's tried the inside, he's tried the outside. He can use that draft and keep up with them. Seems to be a little faster, but when he tries to get up there and make that move, he just doesn't have quite enough oomph to do it.
Just over 1 second now separating 1st through 5th.
And now got another battle going on. Castro Nevis now is up, that's the Farron up behind Dixon, trying to make a move on Scott Dixon. Scott Sharp right behind him.
The 1 leader, that has been Thomas Schechter. Leads through lap 16, riding back now with Al Jr. again behind Giafone. Al's in 6th, make that 5th position. Your top 5, Schechter, Takagi, Kanaan, Giafone, and Unser Jr. Dixon is now 6th, then DeFerrin, Sharp, Breck. Castro Nevis has dropped back to 10th position.
Well, he and DeFerrin in practice, the final practice, they were not all that fast. They were like 14th and 15th fastest.
Well, he started 10th, had moved up several positions. Now he's back to where he started. Live coverage from Fort Worth, Texas. From Texas Motor Speedway on lap number 18, your leader is still Thomas Schechter. Now you ride with Scott Sharp, and he's back there in the 8th position, riding between the Penske cars. DeFerrin is 7th. Castro Nevis has gotten around Breck again for 9th. That's been a good battle throughout the opening laps of this race. And this is a racetrack where, Larry, they're flat out.
Yeah, it's basically flat out all the way around. Then you try to use the draft. You try to use maybe a little bit different gearing in order to help yourself get around. We saw Sam Hornish actually win a race here by downshifting while he was running on the outside on the very last lap of the race.
There's Scott Dixon in number 9. And then the 6 at the Farron. I understand that just about a lap ago, Greg Ray and Sam Hornish actually made some slight contact. You don't want to do that at 200-some miles an hour.
Well, no, you don't, because what can happen is, even though it's a very slight touch, the suspension pieces on these cars are not made to bang. You know,
not like stock car racing.
No, not like stock car racing. If you touch somebody, that it can cause, especially at 220 miles an hour, 218 miles an hour, like these guys are running, it can cause that to buckle, to weaken just a little bit, and then 2 or 3 laps later can actually collapse. Remember, we saw Scott Sharp hit the wall coming off of turn 4 in Indianapolis. Thought everything was okay and drove down into 1 and smacked the fence.
You take a look at the race speeds right now, Larry. They're actually running faster, most of these guys, when they qualified.
Well, that's because of the draft. Once you get out there, you're flat out. You got all that draft. You got the wind kind of moving with you. So you've got that suction.
Pushing the wind.
Yeah, you got the movement of the wind that's not as much friction, so it's actually helping you gain speed on the racetrack.
Well, Schechter has led all 22 laps, make that 23 laps now. Scott Sharp riding back there in the 8th position for Team Kelly in the Delphi car, sandwiched in between those two Marlboro Penske cars. As we hopefully will have some telemetry here. There's the speed.
221 meters, 100% throttle. Oh, he did climb out of the throttle just a little bit there, but look at the G's. Even down the straightaways, you're pulling over a G.
You heard him hit the rev limiter, too.
Yeah, hit the rev limiter right there. But now, as they go through the corners, look at that, 3.3,
3.4.
That's a lot of G's. And remember, your neck has got to withstand that. Your whole body's got to withstand that for a couple of hours. It's not just...
And there are no timeouts here.
No.
Not like other sports.
No timeouts. And even when you're going down this straightaway, it looks like it's straight, but you're still working. You're still pulling 1.5 G's. The only real place that the drivers get to rest is down the back straightaway. Remember, it's only about 480 meters long.
15 seconds to the pit stop.
Yeah, right. But see how there's about, what, 3 seconds there, 4 seconds? That's all the rest they get during this whole lap.
Look at this. There's Dixon.
DeFerrin goes to the outside. Shot
just
Sharp.
Enough room for Scott Sharp to make the move on the inside, and he does so and picks up the position. Now let's see if Kastronevich will follow Sharp to the inside of his teammate.
Now and then, with nobody to the outside, once they get strung out with nobody to help you draft on the outside, it makes that outside much tougher. If you're running 2x2 and you're staying there, you've got drafting partners in front of you and back of you, it's easy. But once you get strung out like this, it's very difficult to get somebody up there on the outside with you.
And notice how the grandstand casts a shadow over the front straightaway area. Now they're out in the sunlight. The track temperature is a lot warmer on the back stretch than what it is in the front stretch.
And look at Scott Sharp. That Kelly team looks very strong here tonight, probably the strongest we've seen them for quite some time, as he just pulled to the outside of Scott Dixon and went right on by.
Well, he runs in 6th position right now. Schechter continues to lead over Takagi. Kanaan is 3rd, Giafoni 4th, Al Unser continues to ride in 5th, and it's Sharp, Dixon, Breck has gotten around DeFerrin. Kastronevich has fallen back, and he's headed for the pit area. Oh, that's DeFerrin. That's DeFerrin. Kastronevich had fallen off the pace as well, but DeFerrin, who won just 2 weeks ago at Indianapolis, an unscheduled pit stop for Team Penske.
Yeah, they've only run 28 laps, so that's not nearly as many laps as they can run. Either has a tire going down or something's going wrong with the car's handling, and he just thought rather than stay out there, he had to come in and
well, he's going to be out of sequence on these pit stops, but you know, with the way the captain orchestrates this ballet, it could work to their advantage.
Well, it could work to his advantage. The thing he has to hope for is there's no yellow flags in the next 20 laps or so.
Because he makes his stop under green, and he wants everybody else to cycle through with their pit stops under green.
Right, he'll be down a couple laps probably by the time he gets back up to speed. Now you can see they're already into lap traffic, so only 30 laps into this race. And look at Takagi, he's going to the outside. Schechter right in front of him.
Made that early stop because she was black flag. She's 2 laps off the pace. DeFerrin, Buddy Lazier, Buddy Rice also a lap behind. A.J. Foyt runs at the back of the lead lap in 20th position.
That's Buddy Rice of Tora Takagi, who just went around right there. So Takagi running in 2nd place. He's also putting a lot of these guys a lap down. A.J. Foyt, the 4th, will be the next car that they come to be lapped. So this might be one of his best runs, as he's running ahead of Rice and Buddy Lazier.
Well, Robbie Buell with some major problems, and he is some 16 laps off the pace now in car number 24. Some mechanical problems for the Dreyer Reinbold Purex team. And once again, that could be the Chevrolet power plant, because almost every Chevrolet in Indy blew up.
Yeah, they've had a lot of trouble with them. Just horsepower, they're just not making it.
Cranked them out so much that they're just blowing them up.
Well, that's right. Takagi's staying right with Schechter. Those two guys, Tony Kanaan, about a 2nd behind them. There you can see him just in the top of your picture as he came through there. He's not all that far behind them, but those 3 guys.
Joe DeFerrin came in out of sequence. He was in radio contact with Roger Penske. Said the car had a bad push, so the captain decided just to go ahead and bring him in early and not wait for the normal pit window, as he was starting to fall back because of the handling.
Well, and you know, like I said, as long as they don't have a yellow flag the next few laps, it's going to be okay. But if they do, it's going to be a huge.
Well, 33 of 200 laps, and Thomas Schechter has led them all, but Takagi stays in pursuit.
5 for the Bombardier, 500 from the Texas Motor Speedway. Pulse header Thomas Schechter still leads from Toru Takagi and series leader Tony Kanaan. Let's rejoin the action at the track.
Might have tapped the wall. Look at the right front wing. It looks like a piece of the right front wing is gone.
The observers are saying that he touched the wall in turn 2, and right there it was. He hit the star.
Yes, he did.
They said hit your mark, but he didn't mean that mark.
Well, if he was aiming for that baby, he did a pretty good job of hitting her. But that's you know, it doesn't look like a big hit like we said earlier. But boy, when you hit anything with these cars, it's not a good thing. And I think they're going to check out very carefully that race car before they send him back out there. At these speeds, you don't want to have anything that's broken or bent.
So we went some 42 laps. As you take a look back at Scott, what's he doing there? He's blocking our view.
He's blocking the view of the camera. He didn't want to have that. There you see Sam Hornish Jr. Actually, a break for him. He was the next car was going to be lapped, so he stays on the lead lap.
Not a break for DeFerrin, though, because that's that yellow he didn't want to see.
No, this is a really, really bad thing for DeFerrin. He's pretty much, unless he gets real lucky now and can get back on the lead lap. Well, he might get on the lead lap just by virtue of being behind the pace car when everybody goes in the pits.
Well, you saw there on that last shot that young A.J. Foyt IV, Anthony, was out of the car, so apparently the contact was significant enough to sideline the car, at least bring it in for some lengthy repairs of the suspension.
And that flag you saw waving, that meant that the pits were closed. You're not going to the pits when that red and yellow flag is waving. We're being told that they will be open the next time by, so you're going to see everybody, with the exception of DeFerrin, coming in next time by.
Johnny Rutherford, who lives in nearby Fort Worth, Texas, driving the pace car, the 3-time Indy 500 champion, former IndyCar national champion.
Well, we'll see now.
Continues to lead, Larry, on lap 45, and let's see if he pulls in this time by.
Well, it'll be a race on the pit area this time by. Mo Nunn versus Chip Ganassi versus Andretti Green to see who can get their guy back on the racetrack first.
And this should be a very short yellow.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a long yellow.
Damage to the race car, so it should be a very short yellow.
But they will let them all, you know, once they go yellow like this, they usually always give them enough laps to go into the pits and get things, make their pit stop.
All right, now these guys that don't get a whole lot of glory go to work. We talked about races being won and lost in the pit area. Obviously not perhaps as important now under yellow, but it's still a matter of track position. Good stop for Schechter at just over 9 seconds.
Look at this. He does make it out. Beats everybody out. So they did their job.
Schechter may maintain that lead.
Yes, he did.
All the cars on the lead lap came in, which I believe they did, Larry. He's going to come out and maintain the lead. And there's a look at the Team Ganassi cars. So our first yellow and our first round of pit stops, and our leader will remain the same on this restart. So they were all waiting for a yellow to make the stop. As soon as the pits were open, they came in. The pace car will pick up your leader. Now, who's out there right now?
Well, that's DeFerrin. See, he did not make a pit stop because he pitted only a few laps ago.
He will be on the tail of the lead lap. They'll let him go on around. They'll pick up the leader.
Right. So he will probably gain his lap back just by virtue of being able to stay on the
well, is that Al Unser who will be in second? Al Unser is now being shown in second position. So Kelly Racing picked him up some 3 spots on that pit stop.
Well, that was a terrific pit stop for those guys. Giaffoni comes out in third. Tony Kanaan, he fell back to fourth, and Toru Takagi went from second to fifth. So he was the big loser in that round of pit stops.
So we come in the pits, the first round of stops. All the drivers on the lead lap made their pit stop, and Schechter with that 9.2 second stop was the first out, so he maintains the lead. You don't see that often.
No, a lot of times you don't, but obviously they did a great job. Al Unser Jr.'s crew did a terrific job as they got him in and out of there very, very quickly.
Riding with Sam Hornish there, he's back in the 12th position, the lead Chevrolet-powered car out there as they remain under yellow here at Texas Motor Speedway, as the Corvette pace car with Johnny Rutherford on board is still on the racetrack. And you see the pace car start to pull over, turning the field back to your leader, So Thomas Schechter should have the green flag the next time by.
Yeah, DeFerrin did get his lap back. He went around under that yellow. He stayed on the racetrack, went around, fell in at the back of the field, so he is back on the lead lap.
Well, hopefully we can show you a replay of young A.J. Foyt actually making some slight contact with the wall. He gets up there in the marbles, and let's see how slight it was. That's not exactly slight.
Well, he hit it hard enough. He did some damage to the suspension, but he just got out of the groove. He got high. Once you get up there in the marbles, you're not going to turn that thing, and he just smacked her.
Well, let's see what Al Unser Jr. may have in store for young Thomas Schechter. Schechter, the second-year driver from Cape Town, South Africa, now resides in Indianapolis. And he gets a good, clean restart. I tell you what, he has matured so much because he had a chance to win a number of races last year and simply took himself out of competition.
Yeah, he certainly did. Al Jr. looked to the outside going into turn number 1, thought he might try it, decided he wasn't going to make it work. Now then he looks to the outside again as Giafone tried to follow him. Everybody trying to stay in that draft.
Well, Schechter has led from the opening green, and there is the number 26 of Dan Weldon.
That's a tough break for him. That young man was running very well, but obviously he has an engine problem. They were taking the cowling off the back of the car as we broke away from that shot. Now look at this.
Out of the high side going into turn 3.
He got a nice run, but as soon as he pulled out of that draft, it was like hitting a brick wall. It's kind of like following a semi.
Flying your parachute.
Yeah, well, if you follow a semi down the road and then you pull out to pass him, all of a sudden you get that big rush of air, and when you get it, it's like hitting a brick wall, and it slows you down.
Well, they're not running side by side as we have seen before, but they're certainly running nose to tail. We've had some good action throughout this field this afternoon. And the fun part of being down here in Texas is that we go from sunlight to dusk to dark, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, and you can see that car pulling around the outside back there. I think that was Takagi who made his move on Kanaan and got around him. So Tora Takagi, once again, very, very strong as he went around Tony Kanaan. Now Scott Sharp goes around Kanaan.
Well, there's a stuck throttle on Weldon's car, apparently. I'm not sure where all that smoke's coming from, but the young rookie from England climbs out and his race is over. Well, and here goes Al again to the high side.
Well, he gets out there this time. He kind of maintains. If he can maintain, if he can ever get alongside him going through the corner, he can maybe make that pass, but he's not been able to get far enough up there to kind of take that draft away. Once you get alongside of a guy, you kind of take a lot of the air off of that car, and it helps you and slows him down.
There is the speed at the line.
Look,
actually, Al was a little faster, but look at Giafone and look at number 12, Takagi, over 220 miles an hour.
And that shows because Takagi is coming on strong. He's pulled to the outside and gone around a couple of cars already, and now then he looks very strong back there in 4th position.
We would hope to hear from young A.J. Foyt momentarily.
I brushed the wall coming off turn 2. We were fighting to push. Since the green flag dropped, I did everything I could inside the car with the bars and everything, just fighting it real bad in traffic a whole lot and even by myself, so it just wasn't good, and tried to pick it up a little bit and push in the wall and graze the wall.
Gary, the learning process continues for Anthony Foyt IV.
And the leaders stream by. Dan Weldon watches them longingly. What happened with the stuck throttle?
You know, I'm not 100% sure, but the team are looking into it right now to see if we can actually go back out and just try and score some points. But it's a shame for the Klein Tools Jim Beam car, because it was good. We were just taking our time, really. When you qualify 13th, you've got to work your way through slowly.
Did this happen on exiting the pits or on the racetrack?
I noticed it when I went to 2nd gear. Leaving the pits, it just went way up in the rev limiter, and from then on, it was just I was just having to hold the brake.
Okay, thank you. That's why we saw that.
Well, we saw him in Indianapolis upside down in a crash that really he precipitated. And had he come around to complete that lap, he would have been black flag for blocking. Yeah. He had a conversation with Brian Barnhart. There were no penalties. He apologized for it, but Brian said, one more stunt like that and we'll pull you off the racetrack.
Yeah, he wasn't very happy with young Mr. Weldon, but this kid's a great race car driver. He's done very, very well. He's been very impressive every time he's been in the car. He ran for Panther last year at Indianapolis. He was extremely impressive. He just made one little mistake there at Indy.
Well, team owner Michael Andretti said to him, you do that again and you've lost your ride.
Well, like I said, it was a mistake. He knows a mistake was a mistake, and I don't think you're going to see him do that again. Scott Sharp lost a spot there on the racetrack as he tried to go around Kanaan, had to get out of the throttle, and when he did, Kenny Brack went around him. So very important to keep up your momentum. If you have to get out of the throttle for any reason or get on the brakes just slightly, you really lose a lot of speed.
Well, Larry, just because you commented that we've not seen the side-by-side racing we've seen before, we've seen some excellent competition here throughout this pack. And right up there in front, I mean, young Mr. Schechter has all he can hang on to with Mr. Unser in his rearview mirror.
Well, Al Jr. has really done everything he can think of to try to get around him. He uses that draft, he pulls to the outside, as he probably is going to do right here, and he does, trying to just get enough momentum on that outside to pull him by. He just can't quite do it. He can get his left front even with the right rear of Schechter, but never seems to be able to pull up any farther. He's going to have to, I don't know what he's going to have to try next. It seems like he's tried a lot of things.
Mr. Schechter set a record that had been held at Indianapolis since 1926-27 when Frank Lockhart led the most laps his first 2 years as a rookie and a sophomore driver. And now Mr. Schechter has equaled that in his first 2 years.
Well, there's no question after last year that Thomas Schechter was going to be a star in this sport, and he still is going to be, just hasn't quite shined yet.
Well, after 61 laps, Thomas Schechter has led them all. Young Thomas, ever since they took the green on lap 49. The past 20 laps, they've been running nose to tail in this racetrack.
Yeah, Giafoni's still running back there in third, just a few car lengths back. And then Kanan, Takagi and Kanan right behind them. All 5 of those guys pretty close together.
Well, we talked about Robbie Buell having some mechanical problems earlier. He is out of the race, and we hope to hear from Robbie momentarily. It's been a very frustrating, disappointing season for the veteran from Detroit, Michigan.
Yeah, I think Al Jr. would like for Giafoni to catch up with him so he could give him a little drafting help. I think if the two of them got together and kind of ganged up on Schechter on the outside, they might both be able to get by.
Yeah, I know it is incredibly frustrating for all our guys and Purex in a minute. It looks like maybe something, we lost oil pressure to the gearbox, whether a pump failed or what have you, and then in turns, you don't have any oil cooling that gearbox, and things just started to seize up. So, you know, we knew we had some work to do at this race just from a power standpoint, but our goals...
Unser Jr.
Unser on the inside. Is he going to lead this lap, Larry?
Well, I don't know. Thomas Schechter didn't give up a thing. Once he got on the outside, he just kept his foot down and kept on going. But the inside is still the shortest way around. So once he got it to the inside, he had a distinct advantage. But look at Thomas Schechter. This is what we see at Texas.
This is what you've been waiting for, Larry. Side by side. Here they are. But it looks like little Al might lead this lap, or maybe not.
And Thomas Schechter just will not give up. He will not give in. Now Kanan is on the outside. That actually helps Thomas Schechter. And he goes back in the front.
And here comes Kanan. The top 5 right together on the racetrack. Tori Takagi back there. Oh, look at this. Look at Kanan on the outside.
I'm not sure Giafoni knew he was out there as he just blew by him on the outside. They almost touched wheels. And that's the kind of racing we see here at Texas. Once those guys got side by side in front, all of a sudden everybody bounced on them and caught up with them.
It took 74 laps, but you got real excited when they start going side by side.
Well, and that's the kind of racing that we've seen here, race after race after race at Texas. And when they get side by side, it slows those two front runners up, and it gives everybody behind them a chance to catch up, and that's exactly what happened. Now Giafoni goes back in front of Kanan.
Of the 6 closest finishes in the Indy Racing League history, 3 occurred right here at Texas, all well under a second.
Thomas Schechter, that's a sign of his maturity. He didn't panic. He didn't do anything silly. He stayed on the throttle. He stayed on the outside. And eventually, he went right back around Al Unser Jr. just the way Al Unser Jr. going around him.
Buddy Lazier is the driver in car number 91 being put another lap down. He is 2 laps now off the pace. So we have 3 drivers out for sure. Weldon, Foyt, and Buell. And once again, the battle is up in front where Schechter has led all 77 laps. You ride with Al Unser Jr., who is back there in second position. He nibbled at it. He thought he had it there. It was almost a dead heat a couple laps, but Schechter continues to lead. Here in Fort Worth, Texas, where we have completed 78 laps, and that is the gap right now, Larry Rice, between first and second.
And it's never been much more than that all race
or less
long.
than that.
Yeah, exactly. It's really been very, very close. Those two guys have run together ever since that last pit stop, the last 30-some-odd laps. Giafone caught right up with them. Now he's fallen back a couple of car lengths, but still very much in contention.
Well, one thing for sure, Little Al tested Schechter and learned something about this youngster.
Yes, he certainly did. He learned that this man is not going to give in, number one. And
not intimidating.
No, he's not intimidating. I think everybody already knew that. But I think what he proved more than that was his maturity. The fact that, you know, he's not going to panic. He's not going to do anything silly. I'm going to run out here. I'm going to do what I know how to do, and that's drive this thing fast.
Well, like I say, he was fast at almost every race last year, racing for Team Cheever. Really had put himself in a position to win 3 or 4 events, but made some mistakes, and he'll admit that himself.
Yeah.
He had to mature, and now he's led this thing from the start as he goes by a former teammate. That is Buddy Rice in the Red Bull entry. Rice now back in the 12th to make that the 17th position.
Yeah, those, you know, he has been very, very strong, and you know, except for a couple mistakes, like you said, he would have won several races last year.
And you talk about his maturity. Well, let's talk about the attitude, the psyche right now of the veteran Al Unser. He challenged him for a couple laps. It didn't work. He said, all right, fine. If you want to lead that much, I'll drop back here and run second for a while.
Well, I think Al's still trying to figure out how he can do it. He thought he had it figured out, but Schechter got him back.
So there's the gap from first back to second on lap 84. Live coverage continues as the sun continues to set as they drive into the shadows along that front straightaway. And there's that about a car and a half length, maybe a 2-car length advantage between first and second.
And the first 6 cars all still very close. Well, there they are right there. They're all in the same camera shot. Scott Sharp being in 6th back there in that yellow car. Those guys all on the lead lap. The first 6 runners all within about a second of each other, as right now they're just following each other around the racetrack and trying to figure out how to get around the guy in front of them.
You rode there for a while with Al, and now you look back from the lead car.
Kenny Brack is behind these guys in 7th by about 5 seconds back. Brian Herta in 8th, Castroneves in 9th, and he's really not been all that strong. And Scott Dixon, who started on the pole, or on second outside the front row, he's also back there in 10th spot, 9 seconds off the pace.
Al Jr., a 2-time winner of the Indy 500 in Indy Racing League action. He has won twice. As we said earlier, the 41-year-old, the elder statesman of this group. With Ari Leyendijk not participating, and Eddie Cheever's, well, his future's somewhat up in the air.
He certainly is. Boy, Al Jr. catches him. He falls back 3 or 4 car lengths. He catches right behind him, and he just can't muster enough speed to get around him. And once he gets at the side of him, it just looks like he can he loses speed and can't keep on going.
These cars very evenly matched as they run nose to tail lap after lap. Both of these are powered by Toyota, and the second yellow of the afternoon is for Debris on lap 88.
Another very fortunate yellow for these guys, as they were getting close within probably 8 or 10 laps of having to make a pit stop. So
well, Larry, if this is a Debris yellow, it should not be a very long yellow. So after 88 laps, Thomas Schechter continues to lead over Al Unser and Felipe Giafone. Under our second yellow of the afternoon, or late afternoon, early evening here in Texas. The first was for A.J. Foyt brushing the wall, doing enough suspension damage to eliminate that number 14 car. That was a 5-lap yellow. This should be a fairly short yellow for Debris. So we've gone 88 laps, now 89 laps, and Thomas Schechter has led them all from the pole position. He qualified Thursday evening at 219.3 miles an hour. His teammate Scott Dixon qualified at 218.6. In fact, Thomas was the only one over 219 miles an hour, and only 2 drivers qualified over 218. The other was Tora Takagi.
Yeah, Gilles de Ferran after that pit stop.
Commentators amuse themselves. We'll talk very quickly in here. Paul Cherry and Tim Scott still with me at the moment in the Sky Sports studio. Now, first of all, I think we have to talk about Dan Wheldon. Tim first. Indy found himself on his roof, and then here with a stuck throttle. He's not having a lot of luck at the minute, is he?
No, that's bad luck. I mean, to be honest, he hasn't really seemed that competitive this weekend at Texas. Obviously, at Indianapolis, he was right on it all month. But it's a disappointing end to the race. But, you know, he's got the whole season. He was never going to be a championship contender this year, but he's got the whole season to pick it up.
OK, moving on, the man that won the Indianapolis, of course, Gilles de Ferran, finds himself pitting on lap 29. No apparent adjustments to the wings, Paul. So what do you think?
I think from what they were saying and what happened, he just got a duff set of tyres. It does happen. You still have to pay for them, whether they're duff or good. But he clearly thought that the best thing to do was come in. Unfortunately, where he got really pushed down was when the yellow came minutes after he got back out. He was off lap. They passed him around the pace car, and now he's back in the teens, working his way forward.
Well, we're still on live pictures from Texas, just Fort Worth in Texas, as the sun slowly goes down. And oh, looking down, Greg Ray, I mean, he's actually got pole position as far as looking over this track, Paul's concerned, and he's got one of those apartments that look over here.
Yes, he has the perfect view. If he was to retire early, he can go back to the air conditioning and watch the end of it. But no, he has a nice chip shop little fluorescent light in his window. So
here we go then. Pit stop on the yellow. Everyone will be coming in, I'm sure. And let's go back now to our commentators at trackside for all the action as it happens.
And you'll see the time. Now, Schechter was the first into his box. The last pit stop was 9.2 seconds. And this one looks like it could be quicker. Look at that, 9.5. Let's see what Al Unser's crew does. Gets him out at 8.8. Another excellent stop for Al Jr.
And you see, Al Jr. actually pulled out in front of him. And, well, I tell you what, he blocked him, actually, when he pulled out.
So Al Unser Jr. will assume the lead on this restart. And Al Unser Jr. will become the only the second leader of this race. Thomas Schechter led through the first round of pit stops, led through 91 circuits.
I can imagine the high fives going on in the Kelly Racing crew.
Well, if
right
he should
now
win this race, thank the crew, because the big stop was the first one. He came in 5th and came out 2nd.
That's right, and then this one he went from 2nd to 1st, so they've done a great job. Kanan beat Giafone out that time, so he came out in 3rd, so his crew did a great job too.
So Al Jr. is out in front.
Kenny Brack moved all the way from about 6th or 7th. I think he was in 6th place. He went to 4th, so that crew did a great job too, the Ray Hall team. Giafone and Sharp came out 5th and 6th, and Takagi, once again, I think he was the guy that lost the most as he fell back to 7th.
First time this season that Al Jr. has been out in front. And he will lead lap 92 under yellow here at Texas, and there's a look back from the 2nd position car. That is Thomas Schechter, out of Cape Town, South Africa, now resides in Indianapolis.
Jacques Lazier had trouble. He fell back to 15th spot on that pit stop.
So on the restart, Al Jr. will be your leader. As the sun continues to set to the west, you see the shade along this front straightaway. Thomas Schechter rides back in 2nd position. He finished 4th at Indy for his best finish of the season.
We'll take a look at the replay of these pit stops. Let's go down to Chip Ganassi first, see what he had to say about his pit stop.
Hey, Jack. I mean, we watched it on television last year with Jeff Ward. He did a great job for us. Hopefully we can do the same tonight.
We saw a pit stop by Thomas Schechter where he didn't cover the spot on the outside like he should have. Is that the difference between him leading and running 2nd right now?
That's the difference right now, but you know, it's 100 laps. We're not worried.
You know, one of the great things, Bob, was the fact that at that meeting he had just concluded the presentation to Target.
Well, that was Jack Carew talking to Chip Ganassi, and Chip refers to lap 100. We will get the cross flags indicating halfway. This time, no, 93 laps. We're approaching halfway. 100 laps will be the halfway point. We're on lap 94 right now. And again, this should be a short yellow because of the debris that was picked up. But as you indicated, the Indy Racing League officials, under the direction of Brian Barnhart, will allow all the lead drivers to come in and make their pit stop before they go back to green.
Well, the Kelly crew got Al Unser Jr. in and out very quickly. Paul Harkis from Auckland, New Zealand, is the team manager on that car, and obviously he's got those guys all dialed in, so they did a great job.
There's a look at Vitor Meira in his second year out of Brazil, driving only the second race this year for John Menard. He ran for John at Indianapolis 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, he had a terrible pit stop. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but he fell from about from 11th back to 15th, so that wasn't good.
Well, they should get the green flag this time to conclude that second yellow of the afternoon. Well, let's see what Thomas Schechter can do with Al Jr.
I was going to say, now you're going to see how strong Thomas Schechter really is. If he pulls out and just pulls around, oh, that thing gave a little wiggle out there. He doesn't want to do anything like that.
It's too early in the race to do something dumb like that.
Yeah, it's less than halfway, but look at this. He's going to stay on the outside, and he may prove to everybody that he is the guy to beat here tonight, as he is not intimidated one bit. He's the first guy we've seen.
And he led that lap.
For quite a while that's been able just to pull out of line and go right around somebody and then pull back in front of him. Very, very strong move by Thomas Schechter.
And you notice Kanaan was just kind of laying back there thinking, uh-oh, what's going to happen here? Let's wait and see.
Yeah, that was very, very impressive. He's one of the few guys that we've seen all day long that's been able to just do that. Get a good, clean start. Didn't appear to got any jump. Look at Giafoni now. He's to the inside of Kanaan.
Giafoni will take the third position as you ride along with Scott Sharp back in sixth.
Well, Scott Sharp tried to make a move on Kenny Brack there in front of him as Brack runs a little bit on the high side through that corner.
Once again, Schechter leads for the second time. He's led all but about 4 laps here this afternoon, this evening, as we go from late afternoon to early evening here in Texas.
Al Jr., you know, he still seems, once he gets back there in that draft, he can tuck right in there and he can keep up with him. But I think Thomas Schechter proved to everybody watching.
He has the faster car right now.
He's got the fastest car on the racetrack because he just pulled out and went around. But look at Giafoni. He appears to be much stronger after that pit stop than he was earlier. So he's already made one pass. Now he pulls right up behind Al Unser Jr.
And of course, in addition to adding fuel and changing tires, they can make a slight chassis adjustment to the wing and then make a difference in the handling.
And that's exactly what they do. You take a half turn out of the wing, the front wing, or a half turn in the front wing. It can make a huge difference on a racetrack like this, especially in traffic. It can make a difference. Look at Scott Sharp. He's moved up to 5th, and he's
looking to the inside of Kanaan, down the back straightaway. You're right along with Scott. There's 1.1 seconds right now between 1st and 8th, and that's exactly what we anticipate when we come down here to Texas.
Always very, very close. He shifted gears that time. You heard him shift gears. He hit the rev limiter, but he wanted a little bit lower gear to try to get. Now he's underneath Kanaan.
And almost 3 wide. We've seen 3 wide in the past. He's not going to make it 3 wide this time.
Giafoni goes up the racetrack a little bit. Kanaan has to get out of the throttle. This should get Sharp an advantage.
Almost contact right there, almost contact, and you saw it from the onboard.
Kanaan, I think, actually had to steer away from him a little bit, so they did not make contact, and when he did, it gave Sharp that little extra
You think
momentum.
He might be talking to Scott right now in Portuguese?
Well, he may be. Look at Scott Sharp, though. He goes to the outside of Giafoni. Scott Sharp appears to have one of the fastest race cars on the racetrack.
He's picked up 2 positions in 1 lap.
Oh, Giafoni's not going to give up, though. He's going to make him work a little harder for it.
Well, he almost got that position. We spoke too quickly there, so he got around by a nose, and then Giafoni came right back around the inside. So your top 5, 6, 7, 8 right there together on the racetrack. Castro Nevitz back in 7th. Breck is now 8th. So there's 1 second between 1st and 7th.
Yeah, Breck has fallen back just a little bit. But everybody else right in there, and Castro Nevitz also looks a little stronger now than he has all night long.
Well, once again, Scott Sharp looking to the high side of Giafoni. And there's a look at Gilles de Ferran. De Ferran made that early unscheduled pit stop. He's back in 14th position, but he's running some 5 seconds behind this lead pack.
Yeah, and he's never really been able to catch up, make up for what he lost there early in the race. He didn't make much progress after that pit stop. He's still not making much progress now. Sharp goes to the outside. He's got a run on him on the outside this time again. Once he gets out there, though, he has nobody. Oh, that time he just blew right on by him and pulled down in front of him.
So Scott Sharp started this race back in 12th position. You look at the speeds from that last lap, and Kenny Breck was 218, had the fastest lap that last time, but that, as you said earlier, can be determined by the draft and where you are in the pack on the racetrack.
Yeah, when these guys up front, when they're running side by side, they're actually slowing themselves down, and then it gives everybody else a chance to catch up. The best thing that can happen if you're back in about 3rd or 4th place is for numbers 1 and 2 to get side by side and stay there for 3 or 4 laps, because that just sucks you right up in the battle real quickly.
Right now you have the Kelly teammates running 2nd and 3rd. Al Unser and Scott Sharp. Scott was the co-champion of this series back in 1996. He shared that honor with Buzz Calkins.
And Scott Sharp really has a nice run going. He got a good run that time. That's his seatbelt flapping. You see that red thing from the earlier shot from behind his head. That's just his seatbelt flapping around, and evidently when he tightened it down, they didn't get it secured very well. Now Giafone.
The seat belt is secure. That's just the end of it.
Right, the end of it.
They didn't tuck that in.
Right. It's not really bothering him. He doesn't even see it.
Well, Scott Sharp has won 7 times and has gained 5 pole positions, and right now he is still in the thick of the points championship, and he goes by his teammate on the high side.
Gets a good run on Al Unser Jr. on the outside. Al Jr. not giving in very easily either, and he's got to give him room. Boy, if you don't, it looks like if you don't make that big squirt and get by him the first time, you lose your momentum and you lose a lot of the speed. So you gotta really take advantage of that big draft when you get it and squirt on by.
And Giafone looks to the inside to take advantage of that lost momentum, but could not make the move for position. So you have a Ganassi team car out in front, a pair of Kelly team cars running 2nd and 3rd. And then the Mo Nunn, number 21, the Hollywood car of the former Rookie of the Year, Giafone.
Yeah, then Kanan and Tor Takagi hanging right in there. Here comes Giafone to the inside this time.
And he has some momentum. Maybe he makes that pass for 3rd spot. Looks like he has him. And here comes Kanan.
Kanan going to use the draft to try to get sucked right up in there and take advantage and go around Scott Sharp too.
Sharp is on the outside. He has to give that room on the inside, and here comes Kanan. As you look off to your right, they are side by side down the backstretch at about 220 miles an hour.
And you're running that close at that kind of speed, you've got to show a little respect for those guys. Scott Sharp gave them both plenty of room, and there was not much he could do. Once he got stuck on the outside without any drafting partner, he just went on backwards.
Still 1 second now separating 1st and 7th. Castro Nevitz back in 7th. He is just 1 second behind your leader. As you ride looking back at 2nd place, Al Jr. So Schechter has led all but about 4 laps this evening.
You can see Al Jr. right behind him trying to figure out something, if there's anything he can do to take the lead. Believe me, he'd like to be leading this baby and make Schechter try to go around him, but he just can't do it. He uses the draft to try to pull up beside him, but just doesn't have the horsepower once he gets up there.
There are a couple of bonus points for leading the most laps, and obviously in this race it's going to be Thomas Schechter. 2 drivers have led every race this season, Scott Dixon and Tony Kanaan, but so far those 2 drivers have yet to lead this event.
And Scott Sharp looked to the outside of Kanaan again, but once he got out there in that dirty air, he just could not pull up beside him.
And Schechter is presently 9th in the point standing, some 50 points behind Tony Kanaan. Kanaan leads by 14 over Castro Nevitz. Scott Sharp is 3rd in the points, some 21 behind your leader. Gilles de Ferran is 4th, 29 points back. Then it's Kenny Breck, some 34 markers back. Then Al Unser Jr., Felipe Giafone, Scott Dixon, Thomas Schechter, and Michael Andretti is 10th. But remember, Michael Andretti announced his retirement and said after Indy he would become just a car owner and focus all of his attention on that role, and he is sticking to his guns. Although there are some people that say, I think he'll be back for Indy next year.
Yeah, he may. But you can hear Al Unser Jr. from that in-car camera that he's actually lifting a little bit going through the corners in order to stay behind him.
Well, that just speaks of how much horsepower he has, and he can't use it all at this racetrack. "117 laps complete. 200 will comprise this race this evening here at Texas Motor Speedway, and the leader for all but 4 laps has been Thomas Schechter. Al Unser led after that second pit stop. Yeah, a daring outside move. Schechter just motored by on the high side.
Yeah, he really did. He just it was very impressive when he just went the outside and passed him. The first 6 or 7 guys, though, running pretty much nose to tail on half of the last 25 or 30 laps.
I would like to eavesdrop on a conversation on the telephone between Thomas and his dad, Jody. Jody, the Formula One champion from 1979, resides in London, England. Now, Little Al's dad, Big Al, is actually the driving coach for the Indy Racing League, so he attends all the races and helps to supervise the driver's test for all the rookie drivers coming up. Although he has the title of driver's coach, he kind of shares that responsibility with Johnny Rutherford, who is the chairman of the special events for the Indy Racing League.
Yeah, those guys do a terrific job for the Indy Racing League, especially with the young drivers, telling them what to expect and what not to expect out there on the racetrack.
121 laps of 200 now complete, and still it's Thomas Schechter with that margin over Al Jr. Happy to be here live with you from Texas Motor Speedway. I'm Gary Lee, along with the 1978 Indy 500 Rookie of the Year, Larry Rice. And Larry, I know this brings back some great memories, these type of shots right here for you when you were in the cockpit.
Well, from the in-car cameras, you can see what those guys are trying to do and what they are doing out there. Now, lap traffic is going to play a part.
Sarah Fisher in that blue and yellow car. What we can't show you is the G loading that these guys and gals are going through.
Yeah, they're pulling about 4 Gs, 3.5 Gs through the corners. And Thomas Schechter just went to the high side, made quick work of those lap cars, those slower cars, had absolutely no trouble whatsoever.
Well, let's talk about Gilles de Ferran. He's back in the 15th position, still on the lead lap, but almost 11 seconds behind this battle up in front.
Yeah, he has just, whatever the problem was with the car's handling, he didn't fix it on that first pit stop, and it's never really gotten any better. Look at this, Al Jr. used that lap car to go down to the bottom. Giafone, I thought might have a chance to get around him.
That's
when he did.
Buddy Rice, they're going by to put Buddy another lap down. Rice is now 3 laps off the pace, and that opened up a bit of a gap between first and second. Good battle right now for second position.
Yeah, all of a sudden, Thomas Schechter has pulled away from all of those guys. So
that was just lap traffic.
Yeah, but he used the lap traffic very well, but he was pulling away a little bit, but when he got into the lap traffic, he really pulled away from everybody else.
Well, if these two guys can start to battle for second position, it'll give him even more of an advantage.
Well, or they can line up and try to catch back up with him, which might be the thing to do, but so far it doesn't look like they're doing that.
So right now, a half-second margin, which really is nothing on this racetrack on lap 127.
Now Kanaan looks to the inside as Giafone stays up a little bit. And part of the reason he's staying up a little bit is so he can get more air on the front end of that car. You stay right exactly behind him, you don't get quite enough air on the front end of the car.
Downforce of the car.
Right, it causes the car to push a little bit.
Now you're back with Scott Sharp. He's back in 5th position. That's Kanaan. He goes by perhaps on the high side going to turn 3. You see the banking change from 5 degrees to 24. Notice how little he has to turn that steering wheel.
Yeah, the cars have very, very quick steering. You don't want to turn them very much. Boy,
almost together again right there.
These guys run within inches of each other. It's amazing that they run that close at these kind of speeds. But if you don't, you can't make a pass here. Now, once you get alongside a guy, it seems like, boy, if you've got that run, you just take on off and go by him. And if you don't do it in a very short time, then you have to fall back and fall in behind him.
So Scott moves up to 4th position. So Kelly cars in the top 4. Al in second and Scott in fourth. And look at Scott Sharp on the high side of Giafone. He's going to try to motorbike coming off the corner and does so.
Yeah, meanwhile, Castroneves back there, he also gained a spot as he's got to the outside of Toro Takagi, I think.
Now let's see what Scott Sharp can do with his teammate. We saw this about 20 laps ago.
Yeah, he got up there a few laps ago and then went to the outside and lost all of his momentum and lost 2 spots, and it's taken him about 20 or 25 laps to get those 2 spots back. So we'll see if he can do better this time. They're going to be making a pit stop here in about the next 3 or 4 laps, I think.
And then the question will be, can they go the distance on that last pit stop, or will they have to make 2 more stops?
58 laps. That's a tremendous fuel mileage. I can't believe they're getting. That's got to be about 2.35 miles per gallon.
So we'll have 50 laps to go this time as Unser leads lap 150, the second time he has led this evening. Schechter comes in with that speed limit on pit road. Let's see how quickly that Chip Ganassi crew can get him in and out.
It's very important for the driver to hit the speed limit and hit his marks. He did a terrific job. He stopped right exactly where he should.
Oh, he pulled out now. We got a slight fire. One of the crew members is on fire. The water will put that out. That will dissipate, and as you see, he pulled out and pulled the fuel rig away. There comes the water. The water was really late in coming. Water will neutralize the alcohol.
What a terrible, terrible break for Thomas Schechter. The fuel man, you can see he jerked on the hose and it didn't come out. And the guy on the right front who was responsible for sending him out, he said to go, and you know, Thomas Schechter did what he was told. But it was just that when he first pulled up on that fuel release, it did not release. Tough break for Thomas Schechter.
Well, here comes Scott Sharp. Unser stays on the racetrack to lead lap 152.
61 laps on this fuel.
Look at this, look at this. Major changes right there on the front wing. They made some major changes on that front wing.
Well, he knew what he needed to do in order to win
the fire
race.
again. Now watch what happens.
Watch the fuel man. It looks, as he goes down, look, he pulled up, and when he pulled up, the guy said go, and that's exactly what should have happened. But as he pulled up, it got caught, and that's what causes the fuel. You can see that the guy who's trying to help is down there on fire too. His left rear leg, or his left leg, got on fire as he went down to help. A
low-angle shot. It's interesting that we're seeing a flame here, Larry, because that alky burns without the flame.
Well, it's you can certainly see it in this sense. Look at, and he tries to pull it off, almost breaks his leg as he almost got his foot underneath that left rear tire as he tried desperately to pull that fuel hose out.
They're black flagging Schechter, and it really, you know, it's really too bad because it was not Schechter's. He's got a stop and go penalty, and it really was not his fault. He was signaled to go out.
David, watch David. Get ready. Get
Tough break for him. Look at that.
There it goes right there. Good shot from on board.
I think that is Tim Keene, who was the fuel man there, that tried desperately to pull that fuel thing out, and then caught on fire as he tried to do so.
Well, Al Unser will come to the attention of the Kelly team, and that could put Scott Sharp in the lead. Let's see who comes around on this steering squirrel this time.
Very good pit stop. Appeared to be an excellent pit stop.
So Al Unser has led twice this afternoon. Thomas Schechter has led twice, but that pit altercation may take him out of contention here this evening.
Well, it's an awful break for Thomas Schechter, and that's been kind of his luck. He's led so many races. He's been the leader so many times near the end of the event, and something seems to go wrong. Sometimes it was his fault. In cases like this, sometimes it's not.
Well, the number 10 car just did a drive-through after being black flagged. We're actually showing Unser is back in the lead after that pit stop.
Well, it's a tough break for Thomas Schechter because just the time it takes you to get through there and get back up to speed, it's going to cost him tremendously. As you can see, a lot of the cars going by. You saw Giafone going by. So it takes about a lap to get back up to full speed around this racetrack after you do something like that. And now, just now, is he getting back up to full speed. There you can see the water.
All the water and all the fire retardant solution. There's Scott Sharp, and look at Castro Neves. The captain has him up in 3rd position. He's not really been a factor throughout this entire race, but with 50 laps to go, look who's up there in 3rd.
Right, Kanaan not far behind these two, and Kenny Brack not far behind them. But once again, Al Unser Jr.'s pit stops have just been absolutely awesome here today. They've been terrific. They've got him in and out fastest every time in, and that's really what has amounted to getting him this 2-second lead right now.
Well, he goes by the number 2 car and the number 5 car, so by Mir and by Lazier. And right now he's enjoying almost a 2-second lead over his teammate Scott Sharp. This could be a 1-2 finish for Team Kelly here this evening. And because of that stop and go penalty, because of the pit altercation, Thomas Schechter now back in the 12th position.
He's 1 lap down.
That 15th, 1 lap down. So he did lose a lap, and he's in 15th position.
Yeah, and if he weren't a grown man, he'd probably cry right now, because he's certainly had the fastest race car on the racetrack all night long. And that was really nobody's fault, that pit stop. The fuel everything went well. It's just that when the fuel man went to pull up on that fuel hose, it didn't release. The guy on the right front, he did the right thing. He tried to send him out, but it just didn't happen.
Let's take a look at the onboard telemetry from Scott Sharp's Delphi car, and we saw earlier the type of G-load he was pulling in the corners of just over about 3.4, 3.5.
Well, this is going to be interesting. 2 of the slower cars running side by side.
2nd, 3rd, and 4th right together, stacked up behind a couple of the slower cars that are running side by side.
Vitor Mir and Jacques Lazier, of course, those guys probably, those guys running side by side, and they're running a lot slower than everybody else. Now Kanaan goes to the inside.
Kanaan gets to the inside and takes the 2nd position from Sharp.
And Sharp is not going to be happy with Vitor Mira and Jacques Lazier, as those guys ran side by side, getting lapped, and he got caught in the wrong spot at the wrong time.
Well, look at that throttle. He was way off the throttle getting through traffic. You take a look at the lateral G's as he gets in the corner.
Look at that.
3.94.
Terrific lateral G's. The body, that takes a very good athlete to stand those kind of G's for 2 hours like these guys are doing.
Boy, I tell you what, it depends on when you catch the slower cars is exactly what happens, because that time Scott Sharp lost 2nd position to Tony Kanaan. We've only had 2 yellows today. We had about 5 laps when A.J. Foyt IV made contact. There's a look at Michael Andretti as he's watching the monitor and the telemetry. And we had about a 7-lap yellow for Debris between laps 88 and 95. So it's been a very clean race this afternoon.
Kenny Brack now catching Scott Sharp and Tony Kanaan. So we'll see. He and Giafone both seem to be very quick.
Oh, a car in the wall, and that is Schechter. Thomas Schechter brings out the 3rd yellow of the afternoon, and with hard contact, and he rides up on the wall, almost gets upside down. You saw the undercarriage of that race car.
Wow, those are the guys on the back straightaway. Those are the spotters and some of the guys from the pit crew who give them messages on the back straightaway as Thomas Schechter throws the steering wheel out. There you see the yellow light system. And those are at the bottom of the wall. The lights are hard to see here, the drivers have said. So they've mounted those in the bottom of the wall so the drivers can see them much easier.
Look at the debris along the racetrack there. Look at the yellows.
There you can see the yellow coming off the corners. That's the first place the drivers can see it. So there you see Thomas Schechter crawling out of the car, which is very good news. Wow.
Well, and you have to wonder, I mean, you can't speculate. He's limping.
Yeah, he's not
a
feeling
heavy limp.
He's banged his right leg up.
But obviously he was overdriving that car as much as he could. Let's see if we can see it again. Oh, something broke. Something broke for sure.
Something broke right in the middle of the corner. Looked like a suspension on the right side. And that once it happened, he just took off, hit the wall broadside. Absolutely no control over the race car.
Now watch when he gets to the inside. If we can carry this, if we can carry this to the inside wall. Now watch the car climb the wall right here.
Well, see what happens is the car is down on the right side, so once it hits with that left side, look at this. It's broke. He's turning it. He's turning for everything he's got.
Now he's prepared for impact.
Yeah, it was something in the rear that broke, probably something in the right rear suspension.
Well, the helmet is off, and he is setting on that wall the attention of the safety crew and Dr. Bach. So we're under our third yellow of the afternoon.
Well, you join us back in the studio here in a bit of a hurry while the Americans go off for a break there now. Disaster for Thomas Schechter. First of all, I think we've got to talk about the incident in pit lane, which led him into the desperate straits that he finds himself in. He led for the most part of this race. Paul Cherry still with us, and thank you very much, Tim Scott, for being here as well. The fire, the incident with the hose and cabling, looked to me like Thomas Schechter did everything right. Looked to me like the guy on the wheel that indicated they were coming out did everything right. Looked like the hose man was a bit slow. What was your reading of it?
The hose man was exactly that. He was a bit slow, and he wasn't watching the right front, and he wasn't watching what he was doing. He actually spent his time looking around. If we were to see that again, he's not on the job. He left the vent in, suddenly realizes what he's got to do. It's too late. The car's on its way.
Well, we can take a look at it now. The hose man, as you can see, he's looking up to the, and he kind of hesitated. He got it out halfway out through the hole, but Paul, I have to say that now that we know that he's actually okay, it was quite an amusing comment that you made off air, was that funny how you can see the flames from methanol in the dark.
Yeah, I mean, methanol in the daytime, as we saw last year with Robbie Gordon's fire, you can't see anything, but at night you just get that tinge, and certainly with those red fire suits they were able to pinpoint it. As we can see here, the thing just snaps cleanly off. Schechter would have more of a problem maybe if they'd had to make another fuel stop, because without a doubt I'm pretty sure that will have done the seals. Now
Tim, he got a drive-through penalty for that particular infringement. Now, obviously, it was his, again, it wasn't an infringement that Thomas actually caused. It was his team, but they all get treated. They all get the same penalty, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, it's just the rules. It's as we were saying just before the race started. Thomas is maturing all the time, and it's ironic that for him, on a race day where he's done everything right, it's all gone wrong for him, and it's not his fault, including the final accident.
Well, the final accident, obviously, he was trying to make up ground, and then we have a breakage on the car. Now, obviously, we're assuming that had absolutely nothing to do with the fueling incident, because it looked like a suspension failure at the back, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, these cars are fabulously made. The tolerances and the specifications and the checking that goes into these parts, as you can imagine, is extreme to say the least. This is a very, very rare situation. I would suspect that at some point during this race, he has touched wheels with somebody, or maybe even brushed the wall, or maybe when he pulled out of the pit, he may have run over a piece of equipment in all that melee. We just don't know. But those sort of things break because something has damaged them. They don't break normally.
Well, we can see Schechter's car being pulled away there at the moment. We are under our third yellow of the afternoon. Lap 175 was the incident.
From the telemetry or anything radio?
Let's hear from trackside.
Clues to what was about to happen?
Really no idea, Jack. I mean, it was obviously something sudden, and it was obviously something broke on the car, and the good news is Thomas is okay, and you know, we can get another car.
Indeed. Words of wisdom. You can buy cars.
Well, that was Jerry Punch, obviously in the excitement of the moment he called him Jack, but that was Jerry Punch, one of the 3 pit reporters this afternoon here at, I keep saying this afternoon, I'm so used to racing in the afternoon, but it's twilight here in Texas. You see the lights there on the infield, but I tell you what, you've been around this track at night, and for the drivers, even at 220 miles an hour, it's like high noon. The lighting facility here is phenomenal.
The lighting is terrific. The racetrack is very good. When they first built this track, it had a big dip in it down in 3. They fixed that, so this racetrack is everything the drivers like. The guy who really did not want to see that yellow flag is Al Unser Jr. Now then, he's got Kanaan, Sharp, Brack, and Giafone all right on his tail, and it's a jump ball now. Once they catch up with you, anything can happen because the draft is so important. If you just mess up just a little bit, you can be passed very easily.
Well, the pits are open now. How many will actually make a pit stop? We only have 5 drivers out of this event.
Well, the only guys probably that'll come in will be Dixon and Herta, maybe Castroneves, because they're the last 3 guys on the lead lap. if they change and it actually helps them to have on new tires, then they might gain something. The guys up front are not going to.
I like those yellow lights there at the track. See, at the top of the banking by the bottom of the, makes it very easy for these drivers to see that there's a yellow on the racetrack. So Johnny Rutherford has that yellow Corvette out on the track, still under yellow here in Texas. So lap 179 now complete. The yellow came out at 175. And there is the wrecked target car of Thomas Schechter. Heavy, extensive right side damage, but notice the right wheel stayed on because that tethering system.
Yes, they do have tethers on all the wheels to try to keep them on the cars no matter what happens. Usually what happens is it's not the first impact they'll take the wheel off. It's usually the second or third because those tethers, you know, tend to get broken the second or third time you hit the wall.
Well, there is your leader, and there is Al kind of exercising his right hand, so that doesn't cramp up. Been in the cockpit now for about 2 hours.
Now they'll have about 16 laps to go once the green flag falls. There you see Felipe Giafone.
He's back there in 5th.
Right, and he was coming on. He had a very bad pit stop. He fell back to 7th on his pit stop and has come back up past Castroneves, past Takagi. And Kenny Brack is another guy who's been back in about 7th or 8th spot most of the race. Now he's up in 4th and looks pretty strong.
Well, as we told you, the pits are open, but the leaders are staying out on the racetrack. They have enough fuel and tires, of course, to go the distance. As you see the wrecked car of Thomas Schechter being returned to the pit area. Our live coverage, and it's going to be 15, 16 lap shootout, and so what we thought might be a big margin of victory for Al Jr. could come down to a photo finish again.
Probably be another Texas finish here. Tony Kanaan, who's running in 2nd place, still wears that brace from the crash he had in Japan. He said this will probably be the last race he'll have to wear it, but he is still wearing that brace, so his hand is not fully healed yet, even though it's good enough that he can drive, obviously.
As you see that wrecked car headed back to the infield, back to the transporter. Lap 181 now complete. Al Unser took the lead back at lap 150 as you take a look at Al Jr. First time he has led in 5 races this season. He has a couple of Indy Racing League victories in his very vast resume. There's a look at Tony Kanaan. You're riding with Tony. He's back in 2nd position on this restart.
It's going to be interesting to see the restart, how these guys play it out, who kind of partners up, because I think the only way you're going to be able to go around a guy on the outside is if you get a partner to go out there and kind of use the draft with you. So it'll be interesting to see who pairs up with who. Kenny Brack back there looking the strongest that he's looked all race long.
Scott Sharp presently in 3rd position for Team Kelly. They have the lead right now, and they have 3rd position. Kenny Brack, there's Kenny Brack in the Pioneer car driving for Bobby Rahal and Dave Letterman, the late night television talk show host. He's back there in 4th.
And he just hasn't been all that strong all race long. He's been running back in about 7th or 8th most of the race, and now then he's up to 4th and looks stronger. Felipe Giafone, he and Breck were 2 of the fastest cars on the racetrack during that last segment before the yellow flag came out.
There's Tor Takagi. Tor is back in 6th position. He was the Rookie of the Year at Indianapolis 2 weeks ago. Still Castroneves back behind him in 7th.
Tor Takagi's still learning, but he certainly has looked good and strong all year long. He really has kind of surprised me. I thought he would be okay, but I didn't expect him to be nearly as good as he has been thus far in this season.
Well, Mo Nunn has a way of picking some good young talent.
Yes, he does, and he's done very well with him.
There's the 3 car of Castroneves. He started back in 10th position, and at one point after that last pit stop, he got up to 3rd, and then he fell back a bit. And right now, Castroneves back in the 7th position. There is the 27 of Brian Herta, subbing for the injured Dario Franchitti. And right now Herta back in the 8th position with Dixon in 9th, and there's you're running along with Scott Dixon. Well, now we get an idea just how bright these lights are here.
Yeah, it's the cameras make it look a little bright. I mean, it's dark outside. It looks like it's twilight, but it's getting pretty dark here right now. But the lights are terrific here at this racetrack.
Well, we're now at lap 184. And so we're going to have just a handful to shake out, determine the fifth.
Well, and the restart is going to be important. There's DeFerrin, who is a lap down. He's in 10th spot, so had not had one of his better days after winning there at Indianapolis.
I will have 1 lap to go when they come to the line, so we'll have about 14 laps of competition. We've only had 2 different leaders. Thomas Schechter has led 144 laps. Al Unser has led the other 40. So Al will have Tony Kanaan and his teammate Scott Sharp, Kenny Breck, Giafoni, Takagi, Castronevich, Herta, and Dixon. Those 9 drivers are on the lead lap. There's Roger Yasukawa. Yasukawa back in the 11th position, a lap off the pace. He is leading the rookie standings.
And Greg Ray behind him.
These are all a lap down. DeFerrin, Yasukawa, Ray, Hornish is a lap down. 3 laps down now is Mira. 4 laps down is Buddy Lazier. Buddy Rice is 5 laps down. 6 laps down is Sarah Fisher. And out of the race would be Schechter, Jacques Lazier, Weldon, Foyt, and Buell. So
shows you what a good job though that Hornish has done. He's only 1 lap down. The next Chevrolet is 3 laps down.
All right, we're about to turn them loose here for the final 14-lap shootout at Texas. Live coverage from Texas Motor Speedway, and they're going to get the green flag, Larry, this time by. No, I guess we're going to go. Well, let's check out the flag stand. Yeah, we're going back racing. So we have 14 laps to determine who's going to win this thing. Now that's DeFerrin. He's a lap off the pace.
DeFerrin moved up and they got around, but look at Kanaan. He's got a huge run this time on Al Jr. Let's see if he can pull it off. This could be it. They said they weren't going to make their move till near the end of the race. Well, must be close enough because he made a strong move that time.
And he actually led that lap.
Still side by side though as they go back into turn 1. Al Jr. doesn't give in. Now then he falls back a little bit. Let's see if he is strong enough down the straightaway. He has a little bit more straightaway speed where he should coming off of that corner. No, he can't do it. He might have to pull back down in behind him.
So Kanaan led 1 lap. Led lap 187.
Look at Sharp. He's going to make a move to the inside. Kanaan pulls down.
Look at Takagi right back there in 4th.
Cuts him off. Takagi made a strong move as he moved up several spots on that start.
What did you say about not having a real close finish this evening?
I don't know.
Unless
but
these 2 guys get together and we end under yellow.
Kenny Breck went from 4th to 8th. He got a terrible, terrible restart for some reason.
Well, besides Schechter, Al Unser has led 40-some laps. He relinquished the lead for 1 lap to Tony Kanaan and got him right back. And here comes Scott Sharp.
Well, he's certainly showing right now that he might be the 2nd fastest race car on the racetrack all night long. As I think everybody will agree, Thomas Schechter was the fastest guy out there.
All right, we complete lap 190. Larry, 10 laps to go.
Well, if Tony Kanaan's got a trick in his hat, he better pull it out now. Look at Giafoni.
Giafoni bottomed out right there. You saw some sparks off the right rear. Oh, contact between Giafoni and Scott Sharp, and Sharp's going to lose a position or 2. Oh, contact with 3 guys. 2 guys got together. Takagi was on the inside, and 2 other guys get together, and this race is going to end under yellow.
Castronevich was DeFerrin. One or the other got down there sideways as Takagi tried to make it 3 wide. Just wasn't enough room. Sharp and
look
Giafoni.
At the damage.
And that Takagi is Giafoni's teammate. I don't think there'll be any love lost between teammates after that incident.
There might be some conversation yet this evening in the Mo Nunn pit.
Giafoni gives a thumbs up, meaning that he is okay. That's good news, because that was a pretty hard hit.
Let's take a look again. Now look at Takagi. He's under the white line.
He just got way under the white line. He had no business business being there, quite honestly. He had no business being down there. Those two guys almost touched coming off the corner. They slowed down, so he got a big run on him, and once he got to the corner, he had to go under the white line. Well, you can't do that there. If those guys hadn't been there, he was going to be the one that ended up the fence.
Right there's the contact, little bumper ball.
He got way below the white line. The car's not going to stay down there because the banking is different down there. The tires are not flat on the ground. You can see that right there. Once he got those left side tires underneath that yellow, he was going to do nothing but slide up the racetrack. And look at
the
this.
cars behind. Two other guys get tangled up.
That's Brack and Castroneves, I believe. Yeah, Castroneves.
Was that the 27 car? That could have been the 27 car of Herta.
Could have been. Could have been.
When he went down below that yellow line, white line a moment ago?
Well, I mean, it was just one of those unfortunate racing incidents. I don't believe he had any intentions to go under the line, but he had a run on those guys, and everybody started coming down, and he went under the line, obviously, to try and miss those guys, and unfortunately, you know, him and Sharp touched, and I mean, it's really bad for Felipe, because we really needed Felipe to have a good result this weekend, too.
That's Peter Parrott.
It doesn't appear there's any damage. It just looked like Scott's left rear just clipped our side pod. We had a pretty big moment, but it looks like everything's okay.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
Well, there's a 21 car on the hook, and you have to tip your hat to this Indy Racing League safety crew. They work so rapidly to get these cars off the track to sop up any moisture that might be on the racetrack to get this back under for maybe a lap or two. But Johnny Rutherford is slowing the pace car as much as he can, and Al Unser is pushing the pace car as hard as he can. Let's get this race over.
Yeah, he'd like to see it. He'd be just happy to see it end under yellow. I'm sure the fans would like to see that last two-lap shootout, though.
They're on lap 98 right now, so let's see if they get the well, the pace car is still out there.
Yeah, pace car is still out there, so
the white flag and green flag together.
Well, yep, they're giving see the right hand on the pace car. He's out, one lap to go, so it's going to be white and green together. Looks like one lap to go.
They're going to have a one-lap shootout. Well, Mr. Rice, it's time now, if you have an ace up the sleeve, to pull it out.
Well, this is absolutely the worst thing that could happen for Al Unser Jr. because on a restart, we've seen it time and time again. A guy can get a little bit of momentum and he can go up there for a lap, and then he falls back. But boy, we saw Kanaan the last time this happened. He led the next time by. So it could cost Al Unser Jr. what looked like a pretty good victory for him if Kanaan can do exactly the same thing that he did last time.
Before that yellow came out, Al Unser had an over 4-second margin on the field.
Well,
the battle really was for second position.
The big question is, can Tony Kanaan do this time what he did last time, and that is get on the outside and lead one lap. That's all he has to lead.
All right, here they go. Kanaan, oh, look at Takagi going the high side. He led one lap.
Takagi's going to get down on the
outside. There he goes to the lead. A great start, but here comes Al back on the inside. We can set up for another of those side-by-side photo finishes.
Al Jr. is not going to give up that easy. Let's see, though. And now that he pulls up just a little bit, and that's maybe just enough to get him the victory.
And Al is going to win this thing.
Al Unser Jr. did a terrific job because the last time that happened, Kanaan got to the outside and he led that next lap.
There it is then, Al Unser Jr. takes the win. What a win it was as well from Tony Kanaan. It was a dash for cash right in the closing stages here. What a dramatic Texas Speedway we've had tonight. Well, maybe not the closest finish that we've seen so far in this series here at Texas, but certainly one of the most dramatic races. Thomas Schechter going out earlier on, and he led the most laps of the race. Now with me still here in the studio are Paul Cherry and Tim Scott. And Tim, not the best races for all the right reasons, but Al Unser Jr., really, if there was anyone to win it other than Thomas Schechter, it seemed to be him.
Well, I mean, he was on Schechter's tail all afternoon, all evening, and he certainly had a quick car. Both Kelly cars were super good tonight, and Al's a deserving winner without doubt.
Very quickly, drama as ever at Texas. I'm looking forward to Richmond, Paul.
Yeah, a big drama race, but let's look at Kenan. Second place there's thrust him right ahead in the championship. He's got a good bankers point situation now, so he's looking good.
Indeed he has, of course. We'll be back next week from Richmond. We'll be live for the next round of the Indy Racing League. My thanks to Paul Cherry and Tim Scott for joining us here in the studio now. And, of course, to you for watching. We'll see you next weekend for more great Indy Racing League. See you then.